72 Seasons is a boring drag akin to a never-ending funeral procession mourning the death of someone that no one really liked. In my last video on Metallica, I gave my thoughts on Metallica's very inconsistent discography that ranged from the great, to the good, to the mixed, to the bad, and to the Saint Anger, an album that is so god-awful that it somehow gave my ears hemorrhoids. And for that, I had thoughts on these albums. Impressions of Metallica's output that included my unfiltered, filthy opinions on their most recent LP in 72 Seasons, an album that is way too long at an hour and 17 minutes considering that it is horribly paced, repetitive, and features tracks lacking many distinguishing and identifiable features from one another, all to the point that many of the tracks blur together. In fact, aside from some solid riffs and vocals every now and then, 72 Seasons just has very little worth grabbing onto, resulting in an auditory snooze fest where the only excitement the album gave me was when it mercilessly ended. And for all those reasons, 72 Seasons is a lackluster experience. It's just not one of Metallica's best efforts, much due to its length and awful sense of pace. This is why it's interesting that 72 Seasons almost featured a ballad. According to interviews with bassist Robert Trujillo on both Metallica's website and with Louder Sound and Metal Hammer, Trujillo claims, for him, that the creative process that spawned 72 Seasons started when drummer Lars Ulrich requested Trujillo to craft an acoustic version of The Day That Never Comes, i.e. the really good standout song featured on 2008's Death Magnetic, and a track that, as of this recording, is Metallica's most recent ballad. But Trujillo didn't follow through on creating an acoustic version of that song, and instead decided to create an original piece, i.e. a song that Lars Ulrich did not ask for. Per the interview on Metallica's official website that I'm transcribing from Louder Sound, to quote, "I don't know if I disappointed him or if I didn't come through, but basically that day never came because I threw together an original piece that had nothing to do with an acoustic version of The Day That Never Comes." Trujillo then continued, "By the way, that original piece is not on the album, so don't go looking for it. More than anything, it was intended to make a point, which was, it. Let's be creative. Let's concentrate on new ideas, new music, a new record." End quote. Additionally, Trujillo further elaborated on the lack of a 72 Seasons ballad in an interview with Metal Hammer. To quote, "There were a lot of ideas that weren't included in the final batch of songs for 72 Seasons. In the back of mind, I'm sure there was an idea we should have a slower song or ballad, but it felt like we were ready to go. There were definitely ideas for songs that fit into the ballad category. For me, I was more interested in the metal though, which is basically what we've pursued as a team, so that eventually it was like, we've got all these songs, but not one is a ballad. But the dynamic range of what we've got on this album is a statement in itself, but at some point there will be a ballad." End quote. The lack of a ballad in 72 Seasons is unfortunate. After all, Metallica have created great ballads over the years like Nothing Else Matters and The Day That Never Comes, and given that 72 Seasons is horribly paced and an overly long album, some of those ballads and other ideas should have made the cut. And while sure, I don't know the overall quality of those songs, and I of course understand the idea of wanting to create an album that is purely metal with a capital M, because metal is life, metal is God, metal helps me do my f***ing taxes, I can't help but think that even if these slower songs and ballads were okay at best, they would have helped balance this LP out into something that was more appeasing and listenable. These slower songs probably could have allowed this album to be a better record, proving that 72 Seasons really could have used a ballad.